Hello and welcome to the second round of the Women's KISS Super League, where 7 top teams from the Pro Cycling Peloton and 2 community level teams battle it out in the first esports league to feature professional cyclists. Now, their weekly battle will take them all across the globe and to worlds as of yet unknown, from the futuristic world of New York to the European beauty of Innsbruck. Well, Zwift brings the landscapes, that's for sure, and the KISS Super League brings the athletes. Round 1 of the Women's KISS Super League in Germany saw Louise Huback fend off Simone Bouillard and Ella Harris to take the first win on the Watopia flat route. If you missed it, firstly, let's take a look back at the highlights from round 1. Hello, I'm Rebecca Charlton and welcome to the launch round of the Women's KISS Super League series. Now, this is the first dedicated esports league to feature professional cyclists, and it all takes place exclusively on Zwift. Now, tonight we are live from the Canyon headquarters here in Germany, and alongside me warming up in just a moment will be the Canyon Tram racing team as they battle it out on Zwift under this very roof.
It's going to be nowhere on the McKay on the attack, 10 watts per kilogram. This could be for the sprint and the W if she gets enough of a break here. The very smart move from Whitelaw to sit in and get that free ride. We're seeing Bird here now with that solid lead out though, off the front a little bit here. 300 meters now. Ella Harris now set up perfectly to try and take this down, but we've got two up and out of the saddle now. Can she make it happen? I'm not sure it's going to happen for Harris, as it's going to be Shoair on the front. Shoair hanging on, just barely. It looks like it was Huback, though, maybe nipping it at the line.
Looking at the individual results from round 1 then, we see that, of course, in the top spot, it's Louise Huback, followed by Simone Bouillard, Ella Harris, Sharon Bird. In 5th, it's Vicky Whitelaw. 6th is Natalie Eklund. Behind her, it's Amanda Coker, and in 8th, Helen McKay, 9th, Britt Mason, and currently in that 10th spot, it's Leanne Ganser. But of course, it's all about that team competition. So let's take a look at those team rankings so far. Well, it's the Zwift All-Stars in the top spot with 54 points. In 2nd, it's Shoair 2020 with 38 points. In 3rd, Canyon Tram, they've got 31. Following them in 4th, it's Hagens Berman Supermin with 23 points. In 5th, it's the Zwift Academy, they've got 21 points. In 6th, it's Dolcini Van Eyck, they've got 14. And in 7th place currently sits Valkar Cyclants with 9. And in 8th, it's WNT Rota. They've also got 9 points, but it's all still very much to play for. So for round 2, we move to Innsbruck for 4 laps of the Innsbruckring. Now, this course will see a relatively flat route, but with a short leg snapper of a climb that will likely see riders being knocked off the back of the race each time. So position in the pack is all important here to ensure that the riders are still in contention to collect points for their teams. Now, some of the riders in the pro teams raced on this route, of course, in real life in the 2018 UCI Road World Championships. So it will be interesting to see whether that experience of the route in a race situation has given them enough to position highly in this race. Well, the countdown in the pens is coming down, so it's now time to head over to our commentator Nathan Guerra as the race is about to begin.
Thanks a lot, Rebecca. Amazing racing this past week for the first round of the Women's KISS Super League. We're in the round 2 and out on the Innsbruckring. I am Nathan Gare, your commentator for the race today. We've got about 5 minutes to the start of the race. 36 women sitting in the pens right now from the 9 teams that are out there. We're looking at the Innsbruckring route today. It is the virtual replica of the 2018 UCI Road Race World Championship course, and the ladies have to take on a very difficult 4 laps today, including a sprint competition that is going to be out here each lap that they're going to be battling it out for on the Innsbruckring. Now, for the total of this course here, there will be Obviously, the leg snapper that we were looking at earlier today, earlier in the broadcast from Rebecca there, as well as the sprint points, which is a total of 8.7 kilometers, 77 meters there, as you can see, for each lap there. The leg snapper there with that 7% gradient, and then the sprint immediately afterwards is going to make things very difficult in order to hold the race together. So, I think there's going to be a lot of attacks up and over the top of the leg snapper, but there's also the reality that the sprint is immediately afterwards. So I think that the racers are going to be trying to position themselves as best as they possibly can, obviously over the top of the leg snapper. It might just be about hanging on through that section of the course, and then immediately after that, for whichever teams are showing up for that sprint competition, that is going to be on their radar. A lot of times, though, we do see after the sprint competition, the attacks happening immediately afterwards, because obviously 2 VO2 max type efforts in a row like that do cause the riders to struggle a lot of times through those sections of the course. Again, with 4 laps out here, though, and the pro riders up against the all-stars out there today, as well as the Zwift Academy Dream Team, that's kind of been the story with the pros versus those who have come up through the community. Last week, we did see Hubach obviously taking down the sprint up against the ShoAir 2020 professional rider Amanda Corker. So we'll have to see how this ends up going down here today out on the Innsbruckring. 2:45 left to go to the start of the race. A lot of the racers got their warm-up in real early. We did see a lot of them logging in with about 30 minutes to 40 minutes to go. Power-ups are enabled for the KISS Super League, so most likely out there collecting the strongest power-ups that they possibly can. That would be the Arrow power-up as well as the Feather power-up that they'll be looking for out on this course. Obviously, the Arrow power being the strongest one a lot of times for the sprints. I do expect most likely a sprint in the final lap, when it comes to a bunch. But we'll have to see how that ends up playing out. The Feather power will be also a factor on the climb. Having the leg snapper about a 30-second to 45-second climb. The Feather power being a 15-second power-up that you can use that will reduce the weight of your avatar in the game. The Arrow power-up then obviously going to be 30 seconds of a reduced CDA on the avatar. So reducing the drag that is in-game on your avatar, that's going to be the strongest one you can possibly have. It does look like we got a lot of chatter going on between the ladies in the pens here. A lot of good luck. Hello from California in there we're seeing as well. So we are seeing the Canyon Tram ladies as well saying good luck to the rest of the riders and that they'll need it. So already a little bit of chatter between the riders. We don't see a whole lot of that during the races though, as they most likely won't be able to reach the keyboards or at least have much chatter going on, as it has been crazy fast. Racing from the get-go. The heart rate's definitely coming up, going way up right from the get-go and not coming too far down, as we've seen a lot of the KISS Super League so far. The heart rates and as well as the wattages that we've seen from the riders have been right around threshold for the durations of the races. It is pretty much an all-out from the gun race for about 40 minutes to about an hour. There are tactics, obviously, though. 45 seconds to go. The riders will be thinking about the reality of drafting in the game. If you're not familiar with Zwift, as we do get into the race, we'll talk to you about what you are seeing on the screen as far as the stats and the riders that we're looking at. But there is, as far as the general cycling, how it is that you race in a cycling race, there is drafting in the game. The riders will be looking for the wheels that are in front of them in order to reduce the amount of power that they have to put out while they are trying to keep up with the pack. If you are sitting on a wheel that you are within 5 meters of the rider in front of you, you are getting a draft and having to work less in order to hold on to that wheel and carry the same speed that the rider in front of you is holding. All right, 4 seconds to go, and the wattages are going to be going way up from the riders as they are going to be looking for the usual cyclocross or mountain bike type start, turning now into a Zwift type start with the way that this is starting to become a trend with the orange numbers popping, legs locking. Here we go, and the riders are right from the get-go here into that 163 beast maroon, as you can see from Wilkinson from the Dream Team here on the right-hand side of the screen. You can see the rider that we are currently looking at. It is going to be Mary Wilkinson from the Zwift Academy Dream Team, a finalist of 2018 in the Zwift Academy for the women's side of things. Currently holding down, as you can see on the right-hand side there for the highlighted rider, 3.6 watts per kilogram. The upper right or upper left-hand side of the screen, you can see the current wattage that that rider is putting out, and also the heart rate as well as the RPMs. It does look like it's going to be the Dream Team also up toward the front end of the pack there. Banks is there as well. Showair 2020 there making their way to the front as well. Showair, it looks like Canyon Shram here making their way into the screen there on the left-hand side in the black and purple and blue kit now. Now we do see the Zwift Academy Dream Team is going to be in the purple kits that you do see through the middle of the screen there. On the right-hand side, you do see it looks like Jay Sarah there from HB Supermint as well. Now the All-Stars are going to be in the white, orange, and light blue kit. You can see on the right-hand side of the screen there, now making the middle of the screen. That's going to be Claudia Baring, the former U.S. national champion, making her way to the back of the pack and finding a wheel to hang on to at this point. Back up to the front of the pack now. This is the main group that we're looking at right now that has everybody who has made the first split. We have seen a lot of splits right from the get-go in these races so far in the KISS Super League. We've seen it in the men's race as well as the women's race. Some riders falling off the back right from the get-go, maybe not holding down the kind of orange numbers that you need to in order to hang on with the initial incessant pace of these packs as they come out of the pens. We do see about 3 riders that have been unable to hang on right from the get-go here. And for those of you who are wondering, when we do use that term, the orange numbers, on the right-hand side of the screen, where you do see the riders highlighted and the riders nearby, as well as the position that the current rider we're looking at is holding at the top of that riders nearby, that is where we're talking about the orange numbers. The riders, when they do go into a sprint type effort or a semi-sprint type effort, an effort that could break away from the pack or an effort that could win a sprint, you will see them going into what is 8 watts per kilogram or more, usually maybe 7 or so at times, and that will turn those watts per kilogram underneath the name and underneath the team that they are part of into an orange number. As soon as you start seeing those orange numbers, you do know that that rider is putting in a monstrous effort, usually an effort that is going to be something they can only hold for 30 seconds up to maybe a minute, maybe 2 at the absolute most if they put everything on the line, completely drain the tank as far as what kind of energy they're going to be able to hold on to. We see a rider here now using up a feather power up there for a moment, maybe a little bit of an attack here coming from one of the riders as they make their way up the left-hand side of the pack now, and now making their way to the front of the pack. There's going to be Banks here, it looks like, from Bigla, and Banks there, I think, maybe was trying to just position herself there, or perhaps a little bit of a dig at the pack, not going anywhere just as of yet, so it looks like things are going to calm right on down. We are seeing the name of Cassie Baldy there coming over across the screen, coming from the Zwift All-Stars team. Now, if you're wondering who some of these teams are that are from the community, we talked a little bit about the Dream Team. The Dream Team is a team that is selected from within the community. They're finalists from the Zwift Academy this past year, 2018, selected from that group of women. So they will be in those purple kits that you're seeing. You also seen the All-Stars that are in the white, light blue, and orange kit out on the course there in front of us as well. So Elle Williams now we're seeing making her way to the front there as with the HB Supermint. Clevenger's there as well from the Showair 2020. It looks like things very calm at this point, though. Everybody's going to be waiting for the leg snapper, though. That is going to be the place that each one of these riders is going to be thinking about. They're going to be reserving as much energy as they possibly can, most likely, for the leg snapper, because that kind of a climb with a 7% average gradient going, I think, up into the 11 or so percent at some points, it's going to be an extremely difficult point to hang on if anybody puts everything they got up and over the top there. I think all these ladies are thinking about, can I hang on over the top? Will I be able to, as well as maybe, can I win the race at those points? Within the men's race, we did see a last lap flyer off the front with a win for Team Ribble. I have a feeling we may see something like that in this race as well, at least an attempt at it. It'll be interesting to see if there is any early attacks, though, to try and get away and form a pack that might be able to team time trial their way away from the rest of the pack here. Clevenger here now, as you can see, actually it looks like a Canyon Shram rider, using a feather power up there momentarily. as they make their way up toward the front of this group right now. A lot of power-ups being used without sections of the course or attacks coming from the packs here. So that's telling me that these riders are most likely in a little bit of trouble using these power-ups so soon and not waiting for the leg snapper here. Perhaps the heart rates as well as the effort that's coming out from these riders, just looking to try and hang on for some of them. If the pace is really getting set so high that they're going to have to be using those power ups to sit in and amongst the group at this point. At the front end of the pack now, we do see it looks like Holland here coming from the Dream Team out of South Africa, making their way to the front. Boilard there from Show Air 2020 now coming around to the front end of the group now. We do see the Dream Team starting to assemble. They are starting to position themselves before the leg snapper. It will be coming up very shortly after we cross the river that you can see in the upper right hand side of the screen right now. The little mini map there does show you what is coming up ahead on the road. That river into the leg snapper, that is that little hairpin turn that you do see in the upper right hand side of the screen. That hairpin turn is exactly where the end of the leg snapper is. So obviously the ladies are starting to position themselves for that climb, and it is all about position a lot of times. If the attacks in the front are too much and you find yourself too many meters back in the pack, you can quickly lose a wheel. If anybody right in front of you loses a wheel, opens up those meters a little bit too much, you can find yourself with a pack of riders who just can't hang on any longer. And even if you did have the effort to hang on with those riders who got away, to close it down on the leg snapper, close it down even afterwards on an attack situation from a group that is breaking away, can be just a little too much for the groups that do fall off the back there. We do see a couple of feather powers being thrown down now with the riders. We're looking at Cassie Baldy. Now we are looking, it looks like, at Richetto here from HB Supermint making her way up toward the front now, but it is the All-Stars taking over the front end of the pack now with Cassie Baldy there on the far right-hand side. The Dream Team now making their way up the left-hand side, but Cassie Baldy here, former UK national champion of Zwift here, 5.6, 7.8 watts, becoming 181 beats per minute, leading things out. Show Air 2020 now following it up right behind her at 5.7. Looks like Vicky Whitelaw from the All-Stars sitting on the wheel of the Show Air 2020 rider there, and then it is going to be Canyon Schran right behind from with Ella Harris. Clevenger is the rider there from Show Air 2020 as we do see it come through the screen on the right-hand side there. It does look like the pack is fairly solidified together here at this point. Maybe just a couple falling off. It looked like Allison there, Wilkinson as well, Williams from HB Superman off the back, McKay from the Dream Team falling off the back just a little bit. The splits are starting to form as riders look for the wheel right in front of them just to get a little bit of reprieve, but there is a split here happening about 10 seconds back. It is going to be Allison, I believe it is, from HB Superman trying to close things down with a couple of riders behind him. So there's a break now taking place. It looks like about 16 riders have made it to challenge the first sprint on the day. Sprint number 1 on its way. Who is going to be challenging for the sprints out here? As it is going to be the Dream Team taking over for the lead out. Show Air 2020 sitting on the wheel right behind. A little bit of information here on the, or at least looking at what the riders have been doing in these first 2 weeks. Show Air 2020, we like to say, been doing their homework when it comes to Zwift racing. The reality of racing out on Zwift has its own tactics, has its own abilities that you need to come, or at least your own use of the power that you have. Your legs are the controllers in this game, and there is definitely a little bit of finesse that you need with being able to figure out how to hold on to a wheel, how to interact with the game and the avatars in front of you. And it looks like Show Air 2020 have shown up seriously each week here, looking to be one of the pro teams that have done their homework. Obviously with Canyon Schramm here as well, making all these breaks too. We do see an attack here, though, as we have in the sprint number 1. It is Cassie Baldy going off the front, leading things out. But here's an arrow power up coming from Boilard now, coming from Show Air 2020 out of Canada now. And it looks like Boilard here absolutely going to walk away with this one. Tanya Arath from the Canyon Schramm team look to try and take it down as well, but comes in, it looks like, for second place across the line, I believe, in that sprint. We'll have to wait for the official results, as that was just from the cameras what we saw there. But it looks like Aerith as well as McKay from the Dream Team starting to break away a little bit here. But it is going to be Simone Bollard here from the Show Air 2020. Tiny Aerith there taking seconds. Helen McKay there with third. And Cassie Baldwin taking down fourth. It will be 4 sprints, though, every lap. There will be a sprint for the sprint competition. And that's the situation there with Show Air 2020 showing up trying to take down that competition, it looks like, focused. It looks like the All-Stars are also focused on as well. I think there's also the reality, though, that the riders are going to be using those sprints to also cause some breaks to take place. A lot of times after the sprint, if they do have a gap, you do see the riders looking to extend that gap or hold on to that gap and take full advantage of the reality of that sprint, being able to put a few of the riders on the back foot and into a spot about off the back end of the pack. So we do see Tanya Areth here from the Canyon SRAM team making her way up to the front. Now it's going to be the Dream team taking over. It looks like Vicky Whitelaw now sitting in the middle of the pack there, finding a draft there on the Dream Team's wheel, as well as her all-star teammate there, Dixon, there making her way to the front, leading things out. The all-stars look to be really taking over the front end of this group right now and doing the brunt of the work, maybe to try and make sure that a few of the riders behind are unable to get back on terms. HB Supermint here is off the back, it looks like, with Williams, as it is going to be, it looks like it's going to be Williams from HB Superman, as well as Banks there from Big Let, and then a few others. Canyon SRAM, actually, it looks like, off the back with Rotem, Gafanovitz here as well. So quite some strong riders here that have found themselves in the chase group, looking to bring themselves back up to this main group. So I think the All-Stars are going to be very motivated, especially with leading this series at this point. It's all about the team competition again. There isn't any individual results as far as the competition goes. I mean, on the day, it is going to be about who takes what places, but when it comes to the series, it really is all about the team competition. And the All-Stars, currently leading things out, have really put their stamp on this race so far, saying, look, we want to hold on to that top spot. We've made it with all four of their riders. Cassie Baldy is in here. Obviously, Dixon is in here as well. We've seen Claudia Baring holding on to this group as well, and Vicky Whitelaw. So the All-Stars here have shown that they're here to race. Now, it's going to be up to the rest of the professional riders, though, to try and break away from these All-Stars if they really want to try and get some of these standings to change in the team points competition. The tactical side of things from the overall series, it's going to be kind of about breaking them on this leg snapper. ShoAir 2020 do have the numbers in here in order to make it happen. We are seeing, it looks like, Simone here on the front, making sure that she's following any kinds of the moves, not getting out of position there. It also have Amanda Coker here, actually. She actually took second place, I believe it was, in the U.S. National Championships this past weekend, actually. So Amanda's here, been out there. She's been racing amongst the community races, showing up, doing some homework, getting familiar with Zwift, and obviously it's showing as they've been able to put all four of their riders, it looks like, into this front group as well. Looking through here at the live results so far, ShoAir 2020, yep, all four of the riders, Allie Legg, Simone Bollard, Erica Clevenger, as well as Amanda Coker, all in there for ShoAir 2020. Ella Harris has made that lead group, it looks like, for the Canyon SRAM team. I believe Tanya Areth is in there as well. Alice Barnes, I believe, is off the back there just a little bit. So only two Canyon SRAM team teammates in and amongst them, but they will be able to most likely play a little bit of cat and mouse with the group there, with both of those Canyon SRAM riders being in there. And they are very familiar with racing and riding out on Zwift. Both Tanya Areth as well, Tanya Areth as well as Ella Harris, Zwift Academy winners. So they're going to be really familiar with the world of Zwift, really familiar with Zwift racing, and that is showing with them making this top 16 riders at this point. That are off the front with the main pack. That chasing group now being about 30 plus seconds back. Not sure that's going to come back. It's very difficult to bring back attacks like that out on Zwift, as the group is very good at working together, it looks like, and has the power, as they've shown, to get away. And that's only going to compound over each and every leg snapper. A couple of mentions as well out there that have made the main group here. We do have Lisa Richetto here from HB Superman. She has been able to make this lead group, it looks like, as well as the Big Low rider, it looks like Nicole Hanselman there has been able to make this front group. Again, the Zwift All-Stars. And it looks like the Zwift Academy has been able to make it into this main group as well, with Helen McKay as well as Catherine Collins. So watch out for all these riders here. But the ones that are set up with four riders in this front group at this point are going to be the Zwift All-Stars as well as the ShoAir 2020 riders. So showing up for the race today and looking to take it down, with all four of them making this front group from those two teams, Zwift All-Stars. in Show Air 2020 now. Looking at the screen, though, it is going to be Dixon here up toward the front now. Now it is HB Superman, the left-hand side of the screen in the blue with white writing on the kit there. And then obviously it's going to be on the right-hand side, the Show Air 2020 rider there, Boilard now, as you do see with the blue kits on there. Dream Team there with the purple. Now, if you're just tuning in and you're wondering what is going on here and unfamiliar with the reality of Zwift racing, this is a massive multiplayer online game and training tool in which actual riders, real riders are on real bikes powering these avatars. You can see the rider that we are currently looking at, Amanda Coker here from the Show Air 2020 team. On the right-hand side, she is highlighted there in the upper left-hand side of the screen. 163 watts currently being put out at 154 beats per minute. They're doing 4 laps out on the Innsbruckring with the virtual World Championships course from 2018 that Zwift has made for riders to ride on. And we are about a 12K in to this race with, I believe it is about 23K to go as we head over into about the halfway point out on course here. They will be crossing the river momentarily and hitting up the leg snapper. And that's what these ladies are going to be thinking about the next time up over the leg snapper. It did break things apart seriously the first time over the top of it with 16 getting away. We had 36 to start. So cutting it by more than half of the riders unable to hang on with the initial attacks over the top of that climb. So looking at the main pack coming through here as they make their way over toward the river just a second ago there as they came flying by the amazing, we're looking at the amazing stoplight there, it looks like, as they come right on by there. The Show Air 2020 now, it looks like 4.3 watts per kilogram, 146 beats per minute coming from Amanda Coker. So at 4.4 watts per kilogram, not too hard of an effort here. She makes her way to the back. Now maybe just need to position herself, it looks like here as we look at this main pack. Now toward the front, it looks like it is going to be Psycut there, as well as the Show Air now taking back over the front end again. 44 kilometers per hour currently that they are traveling at, it looks like, as now the All-Stars taking over the front. Wilkinson, Mary Wilkinson from the Dream Team. Watch out for her. Was battling it out all out in the UK National Championships this past weekend. Maybe looking for a little bit of revenge as she was unable to win that race out there this past week. I know she was really looking to take that down here. So maybe we'll have to see her for some climbing legs out there, as Mary's most definitely known for her ability to dominate the climbs. As we are looking now toward the front end of the pack as they do head over the river here in just a moment here. The Amanda Corkin now, 4.5 watts per 153 beats per minute. Dixon now taking over the front end of the pack here from the All-Stars there. Clevenger sitting right on her wheel. The Dream Team now assembling to the left-hand side. It's going to be all, the thoughts in the mind now are going to be all about resting up and waiting for the snap to get over the top of the leg snapper. It is really all about how much of a kick you can really press into the legs, into those smart trainers in order to get one over the top as quickly as you possibly can. If you can separate yourself a little bit from the get-go, a lot of times somebody having to close that down does put them over the top of that threshold into that VO2 max type effort, even into a sprint type effort, really raises that heart rate up. And if you can hold crazy high amounts of wattage over the top there, you are able to break the competitors. We'll see if they can make that happen here in just a moment. But over the river now, and we're going to be looking right into the climb, and it does hit that 3% grade. You can see in the upper right-hand side of the screen. And now the feather power-ups are starting to pop as you are seeing Coker here, 6.0 watts per kilogram. Boilard now taking over the front. Show Air 2020 all assembled at the front end of this group now. But no, it's going to be the Dream Team taking over as Millie Wilkinson. We were just talking about her being the climber. And Wilkinson here now really starting to show that she has the power to kill it on the front end of this race now. 6.7 watts per kilogram currently coming from Wilkinson. Baldy here coming from the All-Stars now. 8.0 watts per kilogram. Show Air now 6.7. Whitelaw now trying to follow it up from the All-Stars, it looks like. And Wilkinson, though, continues to gap herself from the rest of the pack now. Baldy tries to close it down, does so just barely, it looks like. Dixon now from the All-Stars. Whitelaw now following it up. Show Air 2020 really assembling here and showing that they're willing to work together. to shut down any of the attacks from the Dream Team or the All Stars. But as you can see, the experience matters so much. Knowing the courses, as well as when to attack, as well as how to hang on to the wheels here, as the Dream Team, as well as the All Stars, continue to put the pressure on the Pro Team Show Air 2020. But Amanda Koka here making her way to the front there, it looks like, as she's putting out a solid 5.7, 6.7 watts per kilogram. Show Air maybe with a counter attack, saying, you know, Wilkinson, you might have the power up and over the top initially, but I've got the continuance here on the downhill to keep the speed high enough. And Show Air 2020 maybe putting the pressure on, turning the screws a little bit, but no, Dixon shuts it down and takes over the front end of this pack. The Dream Team hanging on in the back now, as you can see, of that group. It's 7 seconds off the back. It's going to be Psychot Bearing actually off the back from the All-Stars team. First little bit of a chink in the armor that we've seen from the All-Stars, maybe working together with the Dream Team, or no, working together with the, looks like the big low rider, Hanselman. And will Bearing be able to come back? This is not a usual type of situation that we do see from the All-Stars, especially Claudia Bearing being one of the strongest riders that we know of out on Zwift from the community here. A little bit of surprise to see her off the back here. It looks like Ella Harris as well has been falling off the back from that attack from Wilkinson. Wilkinson's attack completely demolishing this pack now, and those who have the power to hang have done so here, but Harris, along with Hanselman, they're going to have to work together to close this down. Now, who has made it, though, from the Canyon SRAM team? It looks like all the riders from the Canyon SRAM team have been dropped off, as I'm no longer seeing the likes of Tanya Arith in here. But now we're going into sprint number 2, as it's going to be opened up, it looks like, by Simone Bollard now on the front now. It looks like with 9.1 watts per kilogram, taking it down, I believe, sprint number 2. McKay looked to try and take it over there. I'm not sure she was able to nip it at the line, as we are seeing now an All-Star coming through with a counter, it looks like, with Vicky Whitelaw. 3 All-Stars up to the front here. Dixon, it looks like they're taking over the front now. As we do see on the left-hand side of the screen, it will be the Dream Team with Wilkinson now countering it up there. Sitting on the back is going to be McKay. It looks like McKay's comfortable enough to allow her teammate Wilkinson maybe to make an attack here and try and counter that sprint. It's gone out to 17 seconds now. Look at that, 7.0 watts per kilogram from Claudia Bearing. On the right-hand side of the screen, you can see the rider that's currently highlighted, but just below the rider that's highlighted there, you do see Claudia Bearing's chase. You can see the stats she is putting out currently, in frustration, most likely, that she had fallen off the back there with the rest of the riders here. Maybe just a little bit of a slip up of attention there, allowed a wheel to go a little too far, or maybe the wheel she was sitting on up ahead of, that was up ahead of her, was allowing the gap to go out, and now the chase is on. It looks like Helen McKay there did take down that sprint, followed up by Simone from Show Air 2020 with 3 points. Amanda Coker there, also from Show Air 2020, taking down 2, and Vicky Whitelaw there in 4th on that sprint. We'll look at what the overalls are for the sprint competition in just a moment. It looks like it is going to be Simone still holding it down, but being chased very quickly there by Helen McKay from the Dream Team. Tanya still holding down 3rd with 3 points. That might get shut down if she has fallen off the back from this pack, from what we can see here. Amanda Coker there grabbing that 2 points. Vicky Whitelaw with that 1. So still up for grabs, though, is there's still 2 sprints to come, with 8 points being the leading points count right now. If somebody were able to take down 2 of these sprints, that's 10 points, obviously 2 greater than 8. So we'll see if somebody is able to grab those, or if the Show Air 2020 is going to continue to dominate there with Simone. Now we are looking, it looks like, at Simone at this point. No, excuse me, we're actually looking at Amanda Coker now from Show Air 2020, leading things out at 160, 159 beats per minute. We've seen the heart rate starting to drop. One of the cool things about Zwift racing and the broadcasting of it, that we can see some of the metrics and the data of the riders, get an idea of what kind of efforts that they're putting out. Where are they at in their fitness zones? What's happening with the abilities of the riders at this moment? What's the tactics of the riders with how they're using their power? Obviously, with the legs and the power out of the legs being the controllers to control those avatars, we can see the tactics then with the power that they're using, the wattages that they're using, as well as the heart rates and how high they're going and how much room they might have in their ability to get up to max heart rate. How many beats are left in order to put out any more power? One of the coolest things about watching the stats out in the Zwift racing here. 173 beats per minute currently coming from Simone as she comes through for lap number 2. 2 laps to go in the KISS Super League, round number 2 out on the Innsbruckring. We've got a lead group, it looks like, of 7 riders off the front. 3 All-Stars, 2 Show Air, excuse me, is that 3 actually Show Air 2020 riders here now, 2 Dream Team riders all involved in this break. So 3 teams that have made the front group at this point. Now we do see in the just below this group, we do see that the group that is the chase group are just coming through the lap banner, and they are 34 seconds back. Now that is not said and done. 16.5 kilometers to go. As far as the teams that are involved in that chase, though, do we have any team members that are not going to be that are going to be interested in making the chase? Because the reality is that Show Air is set up at this point, and Ellie Legg here most likely is not going to be wanting to do a whole lot of work. She gets a free ride from the likes of the Dream Team as well as Canyon Tram with Ella Harris back there. They've got somebody already involved. They've already got plenty of riders involved in this break. So obviously the Show Air 2020 rider, there's not going to be wanting to do any work, going to get that free ride, but it's going to be up to HB Supermint, as you can see there, as well as Claudia Berring from the All-Stars. I don't think Claudia Berring from the All-Stars is going to be super interested any longer to make that chase. She's just going to be bringing back riders into this group at that point when they've already got obviously a great setup with 3 riders up ahead. So it looks like the All-Stars as well as Show Air 2020 completely set up at this point in the front of the race for a very high chance to take down the W. So the chase most likely not going to be coming from those riders. It's going to be up to HB Supermint, I believe, as well as Ella Harris perhaps to try and bring this back. Ella Harris, though, on a solo, effort here to try and bring back that front group. It most likely her and the HB Supermint rider here are going to be looking to try and make this happen. Ricciotto and Harris are going to be the main ones motivated, as the All-Stars and Show Air are not going to be Supermint. The Dream Team also with 2 riders up there, they're not going to be chasing down their teammates here. So going to be fairly calm from those riders and just up to Bigla as well. Hanselman obviously taking a turn up toward the front end of this pack now. Still looking at Ella Harris, though, here from the Canyon Shram team, 173 beats per minute, the winner of this past year's Women's Zwift Academy. If you aren't familiar with what the Zwift Academy is, we keep on mentioning the Zwift Academy as a community team, the Zwift Academy Dream Team. Zwift Academy is a talent selection. It's a talent selection program that Zwift puts on every year that awards one rider with a pro contract on the women's side of thing. Obviously for Canyon Tram, as you see Ella Harris as well as Tanya Arith in the race here, both riding for that professional team. They've won those pro contracts through the Zwift Academy. Now the Dream Team that we see out on course are people that were finalists in that academy this past year. So lots of cool stuff coming out of the Zwift Academy, now involved in pro racing. And that's one of the coolest things about Zwift, is the bringing together of all of these people into this online platform to train and race together as well, to ride together. It kind of brings out these opportunities as we mix all these cyclists together in this online platform to show off talent that we wouldn't be able to find otherwise. And that's what this Dream Team is all about. That's what the Zwift Academy is all about, that we've seen here with the women's Dream Team, as well as obviously Tanya Arith and Ella Harris there out there right now riding for the Canyon Tram Pro Team. 14.6 kilometers to go there as we do cross the bridge for the 3rd time as they headed over the top of the river here. As you can see, they will be taking a right-hand turn momentarily and looking toward their 3rd time over the top of the leg snapper. Cassie Baldy from the All-Stars taking up over the front end of the group. I think it's going to be fairly calm, though. As we like to say, a little bit of hand-holding is going to be going on at this point. Riders are not going to be super interested in any kind of attacks, knowing that if they do attack at this point at the front of the race, they will most likely be chased down and very quickly being eaten up by that front peloton, and most likely spit out the back if they were to put in that kind of an effort at this point, as the pack would very quickly bring them right on back. There could, though, be at this point, a few of these riders. I mean, having 3 riders in this main pack, they've got a lot of matches to burn. Show Air 2020, the All-Stars, they could start playing a few games with the Dream Team at this point. Mary Wilkinson, this past time, up and over the top of the climb, really did show that she's got the power to kick over the top of the leg snapper. Really did show that she could break things apart on these last 2 laps. And perhaps the All-Stars and Show Air 2020 might start having to think about whether or not they want to be put under that kind of pressure. They might want to start putting the pressure on, since they do have 3 riders to work with here, they could start playing some games with the other riders. Also, the reality of having 3 Show Air 2020 riders in there up against the All-Stars are going to want to hold on to that top spot in the team competition. They could start throwing a few riders off the front, and vice versa. 2020 could starting to play some games and see who really has the effort left in the legs. Dixon here at 176 beats per minute. We're seeing, as well as Baldy, sitting at a 4.7 watts per kilogram. A few of these riders might be on the limit, and the risk could be taken to try and see who could follow any kind of the wheels here. And if a couple of riders do get off the front or one rider were to attack in those orange numbers, get a little bit of a gap, the best thing that you could possibly do in that situation, kick into 8, 9, 10 watts per kilogram, and then follow it up with a teammate kicking into 8, 9, 10 watts per kilogram. Get a gap, make sure nobody's sitting onto your wheel, and then hold onto it and TT together away. A lot of times if you just raise the pace into that 4 to 6 watts per kilogram, right into that threshold area, it doesn't really put anybody on the back foot. It doesn't really put any pressure on the riders who are following. They can just kind of sit on the wheel, 3 to 4 watts, maybe 5 watts per kilogram. While you're pushing 6 to 7, you really got to show those orange numbers if you want to get a gap. Make sure nobody's within 5 meters or so. And then at that point, hold on to it and hope that somebody bridges the gap to you quickly with another attack like that so that nobody's getting dragged up alongside you. We haven't seen any of those kind of games just yet. I have a feeling, though, going into the last lap and a half, we may start to see that. Also, there is the reality of the leg snapper. Maybe they're just going to wait each lap for that. It obviously has done them good so far to do so, as we do take the right-hand turn on to the bridge over the river here and into the leg snapper here. Currently looking at McKay from the Dream Team, position herself up to the front here. 5.2 watts per kilogram. Dixon now pushing into 5 watts per kilogram, waiting for the initial attack. Boilard here now coming from Show Air, though, making her way to the front with a little bit of orange there on the right. 8 watts per kilogram. Amanda Coker here now, though, now making her way to the front. It's going to be Show Air taking over initially. The All-Stars now making their way up the right-hand side. Baldy here following very closely. An arrow power up being thrown down by Vicky Whitelaw, though. It looks like Whitelaw looks to be extremely serious at this point about this climb. Third lap seems to be where they're throwing their chips on the table, because that arrow power-up is no joke. Those come very rarely. You only get power-ups through the sprint banner and the lap banner, and that is your only chance to get them, and you are not guaranteed an arrow power-up. Maybe, though, as we see her working her way backwards here, Vicky Whitelaw might be on the back foot a little bit with that arrow power-up being used, and knew that she needed it just to hang on, as it is Cassie Baldy who takes over the front end. Now McKay and Wilkinson, though, are the ones who are in the back foot. They're the ones, the Dream Team, last lap, were the ones that put everybody else under pressure, but the All-Stars in 2020 now making their way to the front and getting a little bit of a gap. You can see that it's over 5 meters for a few of the riders. At the bottom of the screen, you can see what the gaps are, and it looks like Wilkinson 13 meters back, not holding on at this point. The continuance coming through from Amanda Coker, now pushing out 5 watts per kilogram after the leg snapper climb. That is a serious attack. You can see the echelon is now starting to really string out, and as soon as the riders string out, you know that every rider is just looking for the wheel that's right in front of them. That's all they care about, is whether or not they are holding onto a wheel. Nobody's coming around very quickly. It does calm a little bit, though, as you do see riders now slowly making their way around, coalescing into a group a little bit more. Wilkinson looks to be out of that spot of bother and back onto the wheels here. The Dream Team has countered the attacks of 2020 as well as the All-Stars. All back together now as we head into sprint number 3. So far, it's been Boilard here who has been able to dominate the sprints, current leader in the sprint competition. But McKay from the Dream Team has been challenging her every single lap. McKay, though, leading things out here. Simone now holding onto the wheel there. Looks like Wilkinson looks to be making the lead out, though, for the Dream Team now. Cassie Baldy, Whitelaw, all sitting on the back. Doesn't look like the All-Stars are super interested in taking over. Dixon, though, going to the front there. Is it going to be a lead out for the All-Stars? Show Air now, 5.7 watts per kilogram. Not very far to go. Within the last 300 meters, there it is. There's the sprint start as they head into these final meters for it. Is there any interest here on this lap? There is. 7 watts per kilogram, 8 watts per kilogram here, coming from Amanda Coker, actually, here, leading out her teammate. Brawler goes, and it's going to be Simone, showing why she's got that pro badge next to her name. 8.3 watts per kilogram. The Dream Team not even getting involved, it looks like here. Looks like just barely getting that second place there, but obviously was completely caught out by the lead out from Show Air 2020. That was actually perfectly timed here, and a very well executed lead out there from Show Air 2020, showing us how it's done out on Zwift to make it almost like a real life situation there that you see in the traditional sprints of cycling there, perfectly let out. And Simone taking down sprint number 3 there. Absolutely amazing here. And we've gotten a whole lot of chatter there about Amanda Coker, who is in the front end of this race right now. And we are seeing one of the fun facts about this rider here, that we have seen a lot of reports of where she has come from to be where she is right now in the world of cycling. Quite an amazing story, coming back from injury and currently holding on to world records that she was able to obtain after a struggle to get back into the world of cycling here. Very amazing story. If you haven't looked it up, make sure to go ahead and do so here. But big shout out to Amanda. She's been showing up and dominating the past couple of weeks here out on Zwift here. And also just a big shout out to the community in pointing all that out and the recognition, as well as all the hype out there that we are seeing around the women's racing. It's been really, really cool to see the community coming around it here with all the excitement here. But Clevenger here now from Show Air, now leading things out. It looks like been kind of quiet actually amongst the team that have the 3 riders that have made this front group. And I have a hunch that perhaps saving up a little bit, maybe for a last lap attack here, maybe just been on the back foot and just hanging on. But perhaps Clevenger, Erica here may be the rider, looking at the watts per kilogram she's put out so far, been a little bit lower than the rest of her teammates at this point, and perhaps she's the one that they're saving up for maybe a last lap flyer to try and get away. But again, at the front of the race that we're currently looking at here, we've got 8.6 kilometers to go, 1 lap to go. 1 lap to go in round number 2 of the KISS Super League for the women's side of things, and it looks like Erica Clevenger here, calming right on down, making her way to the back here. 3.2 watts per kilogram. All the riders right around 3.0 watts per kilogram, as you can see. So definitely starting to calm down, hold hands a little bit, and save up for the final lap. Are we going to have a flyer off the front is going to be the question, though, here. Show Air now up at the 4.2 toward the front, taking over. I think all the riders just looking for the right position and waiting to follow any of the wheels that might give it a go on this final lap. But it's 1 lap to go, 8 kilometers to the line at 173 beats per minute currently, coming from Leah Dixon from the Zwift All-Stars right now. She's put out a solid, crazy 260 watt average so far for the duration of this race. But I think that's going to come down a little bit as far as the averages go, as they start to look at each other, start to play a little bit of games. They know with 126 gap at this point, back to the other riders that are chasing them down, it's not going to happen. They're not going to be coming back. So I think they're fairly confident at this point that they've got this gap and can start looking at each other for the tactics. Simone Bullard here now with Show Air 2020 with 13 points. Helen McKay with 10. And then it's Amanda Coker here for 3rd there in the sprint competition. Tanya still holding down 4th and Cassie Baldy for 5th. Simone still has the work cut out for her, though, as Helen could take down that spot, that top spot in the sprint competition on this final lap, but risk the overall for the win on the day. That's most likely what would happen if you do go for that final sprint, unless you get a gap and stay away from the rest of the riders. Now coming through for their final lap. Now this is the chase group that we're looking at here. Ella Harris, now Canyon Schramm, Show Air 2020 rider right ahead of her as well, it looks like, trying to perhaps push the pace a little bit there. There's going to be Colin Narrow coming from the Dream Team. Rossetto here from HB Supermint's also in there. Claudia Baring from the All-Stars there, just ahead of Ella Harris now. And right behind Ella, it looks like a Show Air 2020 rider. We don't have the name on screen right this second, but we'll try and see if we can get that there. But it looks like Hanselman did fall off pace with this group. She was in the main group. She didn't actually fall off initially with this chase group, but it looks like Hanselman may be up and over the top of her of the ability to hang on to that front group, and then so much energy trying to hang on with that front group fell back to this main group. It looks like perhaps in the leg snapper on lap number 2 ended up falling off from that chase group. So it is going to be no woman's land for a TT. It looks like for the Bigla rider Hanselman all the way to the line, trying to hold off the third chase group out on course now. Now back in with the front of the race now, as we are seeing Leah Dixon here, 172 beats per minute, taking over the front end of the group. And it's going to be Cassie Baldy sitting in. All the riders here conserving energy into the final few kilometers. Going to be looking forward to the leg snapper, it looks like here. No last lap flyers, it looks like. Looks like everybody's going to be waiting for perhaps an attack over the top of the leg snapper. Now, a lot of these riders are going to be thinking, do I have the sprint? What do I have for a sprint out on Zwift here today? Amongst the strongest, it is most definitely going to be Simone. She has been showing us, the Show Air 2020 rider here, has been showing us that she has the strongest sprint amongst these riders in the sprint competition. But has she used too many of those sprints, too many of those matches in the sprint competition to take down the overall win? Or does she have plenty left in the tank to both take down the sprint competition as well as the overall win on the day? And this is for a lot here, having three, I believe, no, having, it looks like three Show Air 2020 in here and three Zwift All-Stars. The podium is going to matter. The top three positions, these riders are going to not only be looking to take the win on the day, but there's also the reality of all the podium spots get a lot of points. And with the Zwift All-Stars in this lead group at this point, the Show Air 2020 being in second place overall in the points competition, they're going to want to sweep that podium and take over the series lead. I mean, that's going to be that would be number one, I would think, for the director sportif of both of these teams, is to sweep that podium to get as many in the top spots as you possibly can for that team competition. Obviously, also the Dream Team versus Show Air 2020 right now in the sprint competition. The All-Stars seem to be really thinking about the overall in the series competition, though, as they haven't been challenging any longer the sprint competition. We did see a little bit of a give in the sprint competition, but I think at this point, knowing that that sprint competition is gone, I think the All-Stars are going to be thinking about nothing but sweeping that podium and making sure they really solidify themselves at the top end of that team competition throughout the 8 races here. And we are in week number 2. All-Stars currently leading that team competition. Show Air 2020, though, showing up and showing that they want to take it over and have been showing that they've been doing their homework on Zwift racing, that's for sure. Right-hand turn here now as we head over toward the leg snapper for the final time. We have, I believe it is just about 6K to go out on course here. 42 minutes of racing in so far. Leah Dixon makes her way to the front. Now it's going to be Wilkinson there in from the Dream Team in the purple kit. All-Stars in the white and blue making the way to the front. Cassie Baldy sitting onto the wheels here, finding the draft, but now 2020, Show Air 2020 making the way to the front with, it looks like, Bollard and Coker now taking over the front end of the pack. 4.1 watts per kilogram coming in, now dropping on back down to 2.8 on the right-hand side of the screen there. Wilkinson from the Dream Team, 4.5, 168 beats per minute in the upper left-hand side of your screen. You can also see the gradients in the upper right-hand side of the screen as they make their way over the top of the leg snapper for a final time. You can see exactly what kind of gradients these riders are taking on with the crazy wattage that they do put out in order to try and get over there with the fastest speed that they possibly can. Looks like toward the front now, Show Air taking over again in the blue kit. Whitelaw 2.5 now from the All-Stars there coming out of Australia. That's another thing that I didn't mention actually as far as the data on your screen. You can see where all the riders are from, where they are riding out of. One of the coolest things about Zwift that when you do log in is seeing all the country flags on the right-hand side, where they are all riding from and how they are competing against each other from all of these separate countries all over the world in this live virtual environment. One of the coolest things about Zwift for sure, how it connects us all and pushes us all to our absolute maximum from the comforts of our home. Looking here, Show Air 2020 now, Coker now here, hammered away. 158 though, heart rate fairly low. Looks like there's a lot of wiggle room here at this point for this rider to really be able to push the pace over the top here. I have a feeling that we need to watch out for her in the final sprint, maybe looking for a little bit of revenge after losing out in the sprint this past weekend for the U.S. National Champion. McKay here from the Dream Team now leading out here. Interesting to see McKay on the front here as I believe she's trying to win this sprint competition. And now leading things out though, and Mary Wilkinson sitting on the back. So perhaps setting up Mary as best as she possibly can for an attack, just like we saw in the lap number 2 Wilkinson was the one who put the pressure on, caused that break so that Colin Baring as well as Sykot and Harris were not able to hang on. Back into the leg snapper for the final time. Who is going to take over? It is going to be Boilard here coming from Show Air now. Baldy now following it up. Here's Wilkinson with the feather power up on the back there, but no, the Show Air 2020 rider getting a gap now. Baldy following it very closely, hanging on the wheel, and at these speeds, the draft does matter. But here comes Vicky Whitelaw out of Australia, making the gap now across it. Now it is going to be the Dream Team with Wilkinson again turning the screws at the front. Took the last lap off for the attacks, but it looks like on this one she wants to try and make something happen. Another power-up, though, being used by the rider from Show Air 2020 there. It's going to be Amanda Coker here just trying to hang on, it looks like, with that drafting power-up. That means it's going to be all about the luck of the draw on the power-ups for the arrow power-up for Amanda Coker. She is not going to be having an arrow power-up. Is there an arrow power-up in the quiver of any of these Show Air 2020 riders? That's going to be the other question. Has Simone hung on to an arrow power-up because she's shown herself to be the strongest rider perhaps amongst the rest of them? And now with a little bit of a gap, actually, Wilkinson here trying to hang on, but there's the counter here coming from Dixon as they head into the final sprint as well as the final few K of the race. 3.5 to go in the race, but they still have the final sprint section to deal with. A little bit of back off the pedals, but Amanda Coker here still leading out Boilard here. Clevenger now trying to take over the front. Show Air really starting to take over the front of this race, driving the pace in the 5. 6 watts per kilogram, but the riders from All-Stars and the Dream Team hanging on, sitting on the wheels here. It might be a wasted effort here coming from Coker as she's putting out 6 watts per kilogram, but what good is it going to do on a downhill? Because they see McKay off the back. That's why McKay's 10 seconds off the back. The Dream Team's been dropped, but the All-Stars is who they should be thinking about. At this point, the All-Stars are not doing any work. They're sitting in, being quiet, and taking the effort of Show Air 2020 and using it against them here. Amanda Coker here now making her way to the front, though, and putting out 3.2 watts per kilogram to lead out her teammate here. But McKay is no longer involved. The sprint doesn't matter any longer because McKay cannot win any longer. She's off the back, so Show Air can calm right on down. It's all for pride, though, perhaps, in this final time through the sprint banner. Are we going to see any attacks here from Show Air 2020 just to win it on for the sake of the pride of the sprint competition, or are they just going to let it go as they know that they've already won it here? Simone now 4.6. Doesn't seem super interested. Now 5.1. Will we see a little bit of kick here? 5.9 watts per kilogram? No. It looks like they know what the story is, and they're just going to roll on through because McKay is off the back here. So it's up to Mary Wilkinson for the Dream Team to try and take down the W. Can she make it happen? Because it's 3 All-Stars, 3 Show Air 2020 riders here. It's one Dream Team rider, Mary Wilkinson, holding on for the Zwift Academy Dream Team. But these riders, Show Air 2020 and All-Stars, they are at the top of the current team standings, and they want to sweep the podium to put their stamp of who is going to dominate this series. So far, the All-Stars has shown us that they have that stamp of approval. They've shown us over and over this past week in the first round that they were the ones that the riders are going to have to deal with out here. But I think 2020 said that's enough. We're showing up this week. We've got 3 riders at the front, and that we can sprint. They've already shown us they can do it in the sprint competition for the first 3 sprints on the day. Now they're going to have to show us in the final here, though. And it's going to be about a lead out, but also it's just going to be about a raw jump to the line if they want to put every one of the riders in the top 3. Now making the way to the front. It's going to be Dixon trying to control the race. Wilkinson now trying to set herself up. Now it's interesting thing about Zwift racing, a lot of time it is about a fade sprint, that you go to the front and then make sure that you're able to just jump on the wheel of whoever kicks first. That's usually what it's about. It looks like Mary was trying to do that there to find herself at the front so that she can quickly jump on the wheel of somebody who kicks into those orange numbers first. And you're always kind of watching. Where's the orange numbers? Who's going to go first? And then eventually you just got to be the person to do it. Sometimes it goes down to the last 100 meters because nobody's willing to be that one that's going to do the lead out. So is it going to be a situation like that? But no, it looks like Amanda's willing at this point to work for Show Air and just make it fast enough that nobody can come by just yet. Setting up Boilard perfectly to be in second wheel now. Clevenger's also there as well. They're looking to sweep this podium. They've got 3 in the right spot here. Will the All-Stars go? The question's going to be about the arrow power-ups, though, because we saw plenty of power-ups already used here. On the front, Amanda Coker now. Clevenger there as well. We see Vicky Whitelaw coming through from the All-Stars here. Who's going to jump first? They come to the final kilometer. Now, there it is. Arrow power-up being dropped by the Canadian rider, Bollard. Bollard following the All-Stars. Dixon's trying to go with it, but no. Simone, it looks like coming through with 10 watts per kilogram. 188 beast spirit coming from Simone Bollard. Bollard looks to be taking this down without a problem. Vicky Whitelaw coming through there, 8.4 watts per kilogram. Can she close it down? But it looks like Simone taking this down with ease as she throws down that power up and comes across the line. First place for Simone Bollard there across the line. ShoAir 2020 showing that they've got the watts to take it down and has done their homework on this week, round number 2 of the KISS Super Week for the women here. Absolutely amazing sprint there. And ShoAir 2020 showing that they both not only able to take down first place, but also third there. That's going to boost them up in the series standings. Vicky Whitelaw, though, followed up very closely there in second place, tried to close it down, but it just looked like too much of a gap as Simone was able to grab a very hefty gap, actually. It was at least 10 meters there, as she kicked it immediately with that 10, 11 watts per kilogram, as you saw the orange numbers go there. Looking at Tanya Yareth here now, 5.1 watts per kilogram, looking to finish up her race, chasing down a few of the others here. Here's the replay of the sprint, though, as they were coming to the line now. And Simone with a hefty gap. You see the arrow power up that got her to there. Vicky Whitelaw, it looks like, coming across second. And then it was third place, as you saw there on the right-hand side of the screen, going to the other ShoAir 2020 rider there. The gap was serious there, as you can see from Simone, way out ahead there from the rest of the riders. Vicky Whitelaw did close down a pretty solid gap. You did see at the end there, but was just unable to close down the raw power there coming from Simone. It does look like it was about, a lot of times in Zwift racing, it is fairly close at the line coming from a pack sprint like that. But Simone from ShoAir 2020 showing us, it looks like 0.2 of a second was quite a lot in a sprint situation, a pack sprint like that. Erica Clevenger there with about half-second gap there. It was Mary Wilkinson, Cassie Baldy, Leah Dixon, I believe there, Amanda Coker there, and then Helen McKay, it looks like, was able to hold off the rest of that chase group to the line, running it out for 8th place there for the Zwift Academy here. So solid results there for all of the riders. So great racing out there for all of the ladies. Amazing sprint there coming from ShoAir 2020. Absolutely awesome that they are showing up and doing their homework and giving the All-Stars a run for their money out there. Let's go on back to Rebecca for a wrap-up for the race today.
Thank you, Nathan. Oh my goodness. Well, what a race that was, and what a conclusion to round 2 of the Women's KISS Super League. We said that climb would be all decisive, and it certainly proved to be. Now, let's take a look at confirmation of the provisional results. It was Simone Bouillard there. I'm just going to nip over and just get a bit of a confirmation here. Second place is Vicky Whitelaw. Erica Clevenger there in third place, followed by Mary Wilkinson, Cassie Baldy, Leah Dixon, and Amanda Coker there in 7th. ShoAir 2020 having a phenomenal time out there in Innsbruck. So let's see if we can get a little bit of a confirmation of what that has done to those overall standings. Of course, it's all about that team classification. Just seeing if we can get that in now. But for now, let's take a little look at where it stood coming into round 2. And then we will try and get you an updated result from there. So we came in with Zwift All-Stars with 54 points. ShoAir 2020 sitting in second, followed by Canyon SRAM, Hagen's Berman Supermint, the Zwift Academy, Dolcini Van Eyck, Valcar Cyclants, and WNT Rotor. Has it changed this week? Well, don't forget, you can, of course, keep up to date with everything you need to know in the Zwift community. So we'll keep you updated across social media as well. But that leaves me just time to say congratulations once again to all our winners tonight. And don't forget, of course, to join us next week for round 3 of the Women's KISS Super League, where we'll do it all over again at exactly the same time next week. So you won't want to miss that. But to all of you at home, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. And in the meantime, ride on.